So, you want to rig up a WoW model. Alright, let's do it. We're going to start off with this bald man right here. I'm sure he won't remind anyone of anything. First thing we want to do is, once you have your character that you want to rig up selected, you want to put them in the face pose animation. You want to go up here to View, Show Model Control. And the first thing we're going to do is make sure all custom options are deselected, except for facial hair. This is very important, and I'll explain why as best as I can. So basically, if you don't export the facial hair with this base model, it's going to make creating expressions a lot more difficult. This is honestly, I guess, just a preference for me, because I actually use a sculpting tool to create expressions instead of the bones in the faces. So if you just end up using the bones in the faces, then this part doesn't really matter. But either way, just do what I do if you want to not screw anything up. Pretty much everything is already deselected for the human male model, except we want to turn on all facial hair as well as eyebrows. Eyebrows are also important. Don't worry too much about the texture of your character, because we'll be able to apply whatever textures we want later. Also, with these new models, you're going to want to enable every face type, which I believe there's only 3. Hopefully we get more in the future. Cool. So that should be about everything that we need for the base. Now, once you have the base model selected and all of the custom options off, you're going to want to go up to File, Export Model, FBX. And make sure to make a folder for all of this stuff, because there's a lot of things that we're about to be exporting. Once you export it, this window is going to pop up right here, and you're just going to want to click Unselect All, and then hit OK. Alright, that's the first part. So now we're going to want to select the complete opposite of what we have selected. So basically, we want to scroll back up and disable the base parts of the body and enable all the custom parts, the ones that we don't have anyways. We're going to go ahead and disable the beard and like all the facial hair and eyebrows. Also, for the torso, you don't need to have the second torso selected for anything. That's just a slight modification on, I guess, depending on what type of armor they use, but I don't ever export this, so you can just unselect this as well. Alright, this is about what your character should look like. Very cursed indeed, but this means that you did the right thing. So now we're gonna again go up to File, Export Model, and then FBX. And again, unselect all and hit OK. And that's all we have to do in this program for now. Alright, before you start freaking out, yes, we're about to use Blender, but it's gonna be fine. We're only doing a couple of things in here. So the first thing we want to do in Blender is go up to File, and we want to import the first FBX file we exported, which was the base body. I personally like to do one at a time just because it helps me keep track of which is which, because I'm not very Blender savvy. As you can see here, we have our base, and all we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna go ahead and double click this so I can rename it to base, and now we're gonna import our extras for the second FBX model. And now we just double click that and we name it to extras. So basically all we're going to be doing in Blender is smoothing out the model and attaching the extras to the skeleton of the base. And we're also going to separate the extras by material, so that way it'll be easier to clean up in Cinema 4D. So the first thing we want to do is open the extras, and we want to find the mesh of all of it, which is this right here, this little triangle in this list. And then once this is selected, we're gonna go down here to modifier properties. And right here where it says object, we're gonna click into this box and click the first option. This is basically linking all these extras to the skeleton of the base model. All right, the next thing we're gonna wanna do is, again, have the mesh of the extras selected. We're gonna go up here into edit mode, and then we're gonna hit Alt-J on our keyboard. This is basically the first step to smoothing out the models. We're gonna go back out to object mode, and then we're gonna select the mesh of the base instead. So again, this triangle right here. Then we're gonna go back into edit mode and do the same thing, Alt-J. And then we're gonna go back into object mode. All right, this is our last step. All we have to do now is select the mesh of the extras one more time. And again, we're gonna go into edit mode, and we're gonna bring our cursor where it's hovering over the extras, just any part of it, doesn't matter as long as it's orange. And we're gonna hit P on our keyboard, and then click by material. As you can see here, all of the extras are now a separate mesh. So instead of it just being one, they're all in their own mesh, and it's sorted through by material, which is going to be very helpful for us whenever we have to organize things. So now I'm just going to go back out and put it back in object mode. And if you want, you can go ahead and save this file just in case. But I'm just going to go ahead and export. So we're going to go up here to File, Export, and then FBX. And that's it for Blender. Now, time for the fun part. All right, so first of all, there's a few things I need to say here before we get started. One, I use Cinema 4D R19, so if you use any later version, chances are your UI is gonna look way different. Hopefully you can still follow along, but if not, maybe get an older version, I don't know. Another thing, I actually have my own layout saved, and I will be providing that in the description. So if you see me clicking on buttons, you might want to get my layout. And one more thing, I also use a script that I'll also be providing in the description. This is very important. I'll probably make a separate video showing you how to import that script and turn it into a button. But for now, we're just gonna continue as if you have all of this stuff already set in stone. So we're gonna go up here and change to my layout first and foremost. Just close this window for now. And we're gonna go ahead and import our FBX file that we exported from Blender. Sorry, open, not import, because for some reason import is open in C40, I don't know. All right, once you try to open it, chances are you're gonna get this little window here. There's really not much you need to change from what I remember, but if you wanna be safe, just make sure all your settings are the same as mine and then click OK. All right, after waiting a few seconds, we finally got it in. Chances are there's a lot of stuff that is being loaded. Don't worry, we're gonna be able to clean all that up. So first things first, what I like to do is go down here to the materials. We're gonna go up here to function, and we're gonna click first remove unused materials. And that didn't remove anything, so now we're gonna do remove duplicate materials. And there you go, that cleaned it up quite a bit. All right, so we're just gonna click and select these, just one thing I actually like to do at the beginning of rigging any character is I like to use the materials to kind of sort through things. So I'm just going to double click this material here to bring up this window, and we're going to click this little arrow right here and just click clear, and this actually shows me what material is applied to what. So this is the body material. We're just going to go ahead and rename this to body, and I usually like to just give it a random color to kind of keep it organized, so we'll just give it a blue color. And then we're gonna go up here, do the same thing, click clear. This is the hair, so we're gonna rename this to hair. And again, we'll give it just a random color. Double click here, clear. I think these are the eyes. Didn't see a change, so I'm pretty sure these are the eyes. Yeah, these are the eyes, so we're just gonna rename, just gonna recolor that to purple, then eyes, close that. Let me also go ahead and save. Do the same thing, clear. All right, this is the cloak. Very basic stuff, but organization is actually very, very important. And I think this is just the Death Knight eye glow. Yes. This is actually the first time I'm using the Death Knight eye glow in a rig, which is kind of funny, but I figured I'd give it a shot because I have been wanting to try rigging that up. So we're also gonna give this like a, just give it like a icy blue. Let me change the body a bit so it doesn't get too confusing. There we go. Here's something really cool. We can actually select certain parts of this using the materials. So we're basically going to separate, we're going to select all the hair first, just to give you an example. So we're going to right click on this hair tag right here, and we're going to go up to select texture tags / objects. And once that's selected, we're actually going to hold down Control on our keyboard and click this to unselect the main body because we don't want to have that selected. What we want is we want to organize everything in this extras drop down right here, because this is all of our extras, our armor, our hair, the cloak, everything. So we actually have all the hair, the custom hair selected. So we're gonna go ahead and just, pick whichever one is orange, click and drag it up top, and then release so it's all moved up here. And with all this still selected, we're just going to rename this to hair for now. I'm usually pretty lazy and I leave it at hair, but if you want to go in and manually rename each one to, like, according to its hairstyle, you can. But usually what I like to do is just rename it and drop it into a new null. So I click this button for the new null object, and I'm going to bring this null down here, then just select all the hair, click and drag it under the null, and then I double click the null, and again just rename that to hair. Alright, so that's one. Now we're going to select the cloak. So again, right click the cloak, select texture tag / objects, and I don't think that didn't select the body this time, so we're good on that. And then just click and drag it until they're all there. We're just going to rename this to cloak. Can actually bring this up a bit, and again create a null down here, cloak, just click and drag all these into this null, boom. And all right, I think the last thing we need to select is the body, actually the body material, because this is actually the same material as all these armor pieces right here. So again, right click, select texture tag / objects, and scroll down here and unselect the body mesh. We're just gonna click and drag that, and we'll just do armor, and then null, armor. Just click and drag all that in there, boom. We can actually delete the stuff that's under extras. Keep in mind, this is very important. We could actually delete all these empty nulls right here, and we can also delete this entire skeleton or joint hierarchy, because like we did in Blender, we already linked these extras to the skeleton of the base, so this is actually completely useless. So we're just gonna delete that. Alright, and this last remainder is just the Death Knight eye glow. Whew, that was a lot. That was a mouthful, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to rename basically all the joints right here. Lucky for us, we do have a renaming tool to make this super easy. Again, I'm providing everything in the description. If you need a little more help with using the renaming tool, there is a tutorial out there. There's tutorials out there on that, but otherwise you can pretty much just follow along what I'm doing. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the base null at the very top, and we're gonna go up to my handy dandy button right here that says naming tool. Click that, and we're gonna load the human male preset basically. Again, it'll be within the folder that I'll be providing in the description. So we're gonna click load first. All right, once you load it, you'll notice that you'll have an option to put it in type right here. So we're gonna click on that, human male joints, and then we're gonna click apply name. And as you can see here, it automatically detects basically the location of the entire hierarchy. Let's see here. Let me just make sure these are all, yeah, these are all fine. So the purpose of this, and I really need to explain this and emphasize this part, you do not want to do anything else to this hierarchy. And the reason for that is because we can actually use this hierarchy to import WoW animations. So if you want to do a mix between your own custom animations as well as the animations in game, you can actually use this system to do that. So this entire joint hierarchy right here, we're actually going to make a copy of that using orientation constraints. And once we do that, we'll basically have two separate systems able to control the body, one for custom animations and one for in-game animations. Basically, do not do anything else with this hierarchy. Do not rename anything, do not move anything, leave it like this. Once you rename it once, that's all you need to do. Okay, now one thing I am gonna do that does not affect anything, it actually makes our jobs easier, is I'm going to select the human male joints up here, and we're gonna click select children, and we're gonna right click. It doesn't matter, it can be any of the orange things that we have selected. We're gonna right click on the name, and we're going to add to new layer. And this is basically going to allow us to have a little more control over these once we're done copying the hierarchy. So we're just gonna name this joints. There, make sure to save often, by the way. Now, the fun part. This is where our script is gonna come in handy. And before you continue on this part, I'm going to hopefully have already a video edited for you to where you can import this script into your Cinema 4D, but if not, I'm pretty sure there's tutorials out there on how to import scripts. But either way, in my layout, I have a button for it right here, which is the orientation constraint. So basically, we're going to click on each joint in this hierarchy and then click on the orientation constraint. And we basically want to recreate this entire hierarchy. So we're gonna start from the very top. And I'm gonna put this at the very top of the list here. Boom, we got one. Boom, we got another. As you're creating these constraints, again, you want to remake this hierarchy. So you see here that this root is actually a child of this human male joint null right here. So we're gonna want, with this new root constraint, we're gonna want to click and drag that underneath the human male joint constraint. We're trying to recreate this whole system here. We don't need to worry about these nulls right here, they're not important. That's just empty stuff. So you don't have to create a constraint for any of those, but we're mainly focused on these joints right here. So again, pelvis, and then click and drag that under root. And now you see we have two joints right here under pelvis. We have the hips and the spine. So as long as they're actually in the same layer of the hierarchy, you can actually select multiple things. You just can't select all of them and then do a constraint because it only creates one constraint, and unless it's, you know, they're on the same layer, as you can see right here. So we just created two. So we're gonna click and drag these under pelvis. And again, move this up here. And we're just gonna keep going down the board. I've gotten so used to this, I can do this pretty fast. But I'm trying to go a bit slower. Also, there might be some empty joints for you that you actually do not have to create a constraint for. You can test it by just moving it around and then clicking undo. So we're not going to create a constraint for that. One thing that also helps with certain joints is they're actually numbered. So for example, if there's like a braid, a cape joint, hierarchy, hair, anything like that, and they're numbered, usually you can just click and drag based on like the number of it. So 1 would be like obviously the top, and then 2, 3. We're just going to click and drag that into hips. Another easy way to keep track of what joint has a constraint and what doesn't is these little tags right here, because every time we create a constraint, it creates a constraint tag. Just to show you, we're going to create one right here, and keep an eye on this little joint right here. It's going to create a constraint tag. See? There it is. I highly recommend you guys get familiar with Cinema 4D before doing all this, but if you're brave and you just want to jump straight into it, then kudos to you, because it's definitely a learning experience, that's for sure. Alright, so I'm going to try my best to speed through this now. So I will see you guys on the flip side. Please just also keep in mind that while you're recreating this hierarchy, you want to make sure that you're creating constraints for the joints that are actually moving something in the model. So sometimes there might be an unnamed joint, and that might be because it actually does not do anything. But just always make sure to check just in case, because sometimes the naming tool might be outdated, because again, there's new models and these tools were actually made before a lot of these new models came out. If you see an unnamed joint, test it out and see if it moves anything. And if it doesn't, you actually do not have to worry about making a constraint for it, and you can just skip over it completely. I pretty much have everything that I need. As you can see here, I've copied all of the joints, and as you can see, there might be a few things that are not in the exact same order. That is okay, as long as it is in the same level in the hierarchy. It doesn't matter which placement these are in, and you're actually going to see me reorganize some of this stuff. So anyways, once we have all of this copied over into an orientation constraint hierarchy, we're going to just minimize this, and we're going to go down here to our layers. And remember how we added the joints to a layer? Well, we're actually going to lock that for now, because we don't need to touch that anymore. This basically makes it so you can't click on it, you can't mess with it, which we don't want to mess with it for a while. Alright, so the next step that I like to do, it is completely up to you if you want to do this, but I do it just for the sake of having things exactly the way I want. I actually go through this hierarchy and move some stuff around and actually rename a lot of these, because this, you are allowed to rename these, unlike the joints, which are currently locked. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through this part, and I'll show you the end result. So as I'm organizing all of these, I actually like to create nulls to separate parts of the face. I'll just go ahead and create one right here, and we're going to name this eyebrows. We're going to create a few actually. Eyes, hair, mouth. I'll go ahead and drag these down here under the neck, and we're just going to go through. I can actually search these up. Actually, I'm going to rename these first, and then I'll click and drag them up here. so I pretty much have all the ones that I'll be using the most renamed. If you want, you can go into all these other ones and rename them, but I'm not going to worry about that because honestly, I don't really use a lot of the face joints that much. So we're going to go ahead and do what we were going to do. And first of all, we're going to look up eye. Let's see, eye, eyelids. And we're going to bring all these up under eyes right there. Also going to make another one and just do face extras, just for stuff I don't really use that much. Let's see, nose, teeth, nose. You will see why I don't really use these that much, because you might be thinking, oh, you think she would animate the cheeks and all that. I do, but in a different way. Ponytail. We're gonna get all the hair. I always like to have the right side of things at the top first because I'm weird like that. It already looks a lot cleaner, as you can see. I just like to have this stuff, you know, organized rather than be all up in my face. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of these pesky big circles. Usually what I actually like to do is just hide them like this. You can click on this little circle up here to hide them, or you can select this top one right here and go to visible in editor and just click off right here. Just keep in mind that if you end up putting any objects under any of these joints, you're gonna have to like select the on to show it and ignore this rule right here. We're pretty much done with organizing, so I'm actually going to leave this episode where it's at. The next episode, I'm gonna go over how to rig by basically we're gonna set up IK chains, and after that I want to show you guys how to use the sculpting tool to create more detailed expressions rather than having to use the joints of the face to make expressions.